zachitika kuti zachitika nthawi zanji kodi nanga amene wapanga ndani musakhale nawo gulu lovutika ndi mphekesera ayi tapangani subscribe ku Malawi Daily Headlines lero kuti zochitika mdziko mwanu momwe zisamakuphonyeni. Kukulandirani kwina kulikonse kumene muli pano pa Malawi Daily Headlines, ndipo pano tikupitilira kukupasirani zomwe Commission of Enquiry ikufunsa komanso kumva kuchokera kwa anthu ogwira ntchito omwe adali kugwira ntchito pamenetu ndege imeneyo imagwa, ndipo pano aitana General Robray Ismael yemwe ndi Air Force Commander amene otu ndi asilikali amlengalenga kuti athe kumva zosiyanasiyana maka zomwe zimachitika ndege za asilikali zikakhala zikuyenda mwamba. Mukuyenekanso kudziwa kunena kuti Robray Ismael ndi flight engineer yemwetu pena amayendesa ndege za Malawi Defense Force kapena kuti ndege za army. Takhani pomwepo chifukwa tu ma MP kumeneko amene ali mu Commission of Enquiry imeneyi anafunsapo zokhuza black box, ndetu Robray Ismael afotokoza zambiri zomwe zimakhala mu ndege, zomwe ndege za ku Malawi kuno zomvesatu chisoni zilibe. Takhani pomwepo kuti inu mumve satane wa zomwe Robray Ismael anafotokoza. Takhani pomwepo.
That you communicate and reason with the crew so that at least you come to an understanding that it is not necessary that we continue with the mission. These two missions were somehow related to VIP flights. Immediately after talking to him, I went back to the conference room and he requested to see the MDF commander in the office, where I reported to him about the lost contact between Mzuzu Tower and the Donia aircraft. He recommended the same for the crew not to attempt a landing, but to fly back to Kia. Establishment of a search and rescue center at Lilongwe Air Base. At 1100 hours, I requested that I return to the base to establish a search and rescue center to start that operation. I reported the incident to the two base commanders who were already informed of the incident by the Chief Operations Officer. And I also called the Senior Staff Officer, Lieutenant Colonel Mapando, who already had the information from the air traffic controller in Mzuzu. Arriving at Lilongwe Air Base, an operation center was established, following up communications between traffic in the airspace with both Kia and Mzuzu and our Lilongwe Air Base control tower. So I was physically in the control tower, listening to all traffic that was flying around the airspace. Unfortunately, we couldn't get any contact. The only contact that we had with Kia was when the Ethiopian Airways was flying in the area, and the message was relayed by Kia control tower to that aircraft to check on the other frequencies if they could catch the frequency that the Donia was operating on. Then I communicated to Zomba Air Base to organize a search and rescue team to drive to Chireka Airport and prepare one MA600 to fly to Lilongwe to marry up with Lilongwe Air Base technical team to join in the search at Chikangawa. As military service commanders receive orders from higher command and execute those orders, service commanders do not communicate outside the Defense Force except on approvals from the commander, if there is need to. In cases of ambulance and this particular flight, as no written orders from MDF headquarters were issued yet, this was due to the urgency of the mission. The order for use of the aircraft by the late Vice President was taken as an order from higher command, awaiting written orders, since the aircraft was already in Mzuzu. An operational order, number 31-2024, was issued the same day on 10th June 2024 for the base to conduct the mission, and that is on Annex 2. Estimates were sent to MDF headquarters for funding of the mission, that is to be able to cater for fuel. Communication to neighboring Air Force commanders. I informed the MDF commander of my intention to contact Zambia Air Force commander to seek for support. He gave me a go-ahead, and at 15:53 hours on 10th June 2024, I called Zambia Air Force Commander Lieutenant General Nyoni to inform him of this incident, and he requested support from his Air Force for a search and rescue, plus an ambulance to assist in the operation. This was in accordance with the SADC Standing Aviation Committee agreement that we had, that was agreed between SADC Air Chiefs or Air Force commanders to communicate and support neighboring countries in times of disaster. This was agreed in a 21st SADC Standing Aviation Committee SAC that was held in Cape Town, South Africa, 27th, 28th February 2024. General Nyoni repromised what we agreed. That is a screenshot, of course, between General Nyoni and myself on Annex 4. The search and rescue team from Zomba, at around 17:45 hours on 10th June, the team from Zomba Air Base, led by Major General Kandula, arrived at Kia by MY600 aircraft. They were taken to Lilongwe Air Base for a briefing before leaving for Chikangawa. On 11th June 2024, at 0300 hours in the morning, the Air Force Search and Rescue Team departed Lilongwe for Chikangawa, and now the Search and Rescue Team from Zambia. So now we have Zomba and the Zambians now. At 18:11 on 10th June, the Zambia Air Force Commander General Nyoni confirmed that the Search and Rescue and ambulance team are ready to leave at first light in the morning of 11th June 2024. And at 0600 hours on 11th June, Zambia Air Force aircrafts AB212, and that is ambulance, and Estron SAR aircraft departed Lusaka Air Base. At 12:10, it was communicated to me by Major General Kandula that Donia Tango 03 had been located close to the Elephant Rock at Ntungwa in Chikangawa Forest. That is in coordinated 114 Dismo 39 Sierra 03347-.83 Echo with no survivors. At 0827 hours, General Nyoni communicated that the 2 helicopters are at Chipata refueling, ready to arrive around 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock. And at 12 o'clock, the 2 Zambian helicopters landed at Kia. And 14:35, 2 Zambia Air Force helicopters arrived at Robray football ground to ferry the remains to Kia. At 16:25, the Zambia aircrafts departed Robray with 9 bodies, with a stopover for refueling at Kasungu Airfield. At around 1800 hours, the 2 aircrafts landed at Kia with the remains. On 11th June 2024, an accident report was sent to the manufacturer, now General Atomics, that was RUAG at the time. General Atomics responded the same day. They sent an aircraft accident report form for available information. The forms were filled and sent back the following day. The manufacturer informed that he has notified the German Federal Bureau of Aircraft Investigation, who are willing to send an investigator to Malawi as their procedure. Just aircraft information, the aircraft Donia DO22822 Kilo, serial number 8148, was manufactured in 1988 and had 3,500 489 hours to the day of the accident. It had no historical background of serious failures. Actually, this aircraft was airworthy, and it had its calendar inspection on March 2024. The next inspection was due in July 2024. For many years, this aircraft had been flying without an operating emergency locator transmitter, the Echo Lima Tango ELT, due to obsolete battery pack. These battery packs, normally the fixed wing and the helicopters, they use the same type of emergency locator transmitter. It's a Joliet 1978-2 using a 6 battery pack. Now these batteries had a potential of 3 years, and every 3 years they were supposed to be changed. It was a problem for countries like Malawi, who relied on support from government, and at times it was very difficult to get support. So there were requests of change to another type of frequency, another type of ELT. This coincided with a service bulletin that was issued by Donia almost the same time. This bulletin changed this type of transmitter to a new type with a longer battery pack life limit and uses a different operating frequency, as the former had 3 years of life limit. Due to funding challenges, this service was never applied since the quotation was sent to higher headquarters. I've indicated that to Annex 5, where this was sent to our headquarters, dated 1st September 2006. From 2006, there have been follow-ups to make sure that funding is at least given so that we are able to procure this. This was a retrofit. A retrofit is that you have, like in a car, you have equipments like cruise speed or whatever, and you want to add something else to upgrade the cruise speed. That would need rewiring of the whole car, in this case, the rewiring of the whole Donia aircraft. And that needed that aircraft to go to Germany because it was also due for a major, let me call it major, yes, inspection, where they were supposed to do deeper maintenance. So with lack of that and the safety issues that may come when using this equipment, we just put it on off position because there's 3 positions. The first one is automatic. In automatic position, this thing emits a signal on its frequency or an impact. If it is flying, you don't need this thing because it doesn't work. It only works when it is on position automatic and it is on impact, failing which it's something that it will always be there in the aircraft, but it won't work. It can only work on impact or hard landing or a crash. That's one thing. And again, this equipment forms part of the minimum equipment list. Every aircraft, when you procure an aircraft, you have a list of items that are basic for the operation of that particular aircraft. So this was one of the minimum equipment list that we had. So we continued flying on this aircraft and the other aircrafts, of course, without the ELT, awaiting attention of the higher authorities to fund this equipment. I don't know whether it's necessary that I have included institution of an independent investigation team from BFU, from Germany, that is the German Federal Bureau of Aircraft Investigation. I was a member of this investigation team as an ex-officio. So I believe that this can be discussed at another level or another forum, because it's a long. Now we'll be discussing about the BFU investigation document, which I have, and I was a member of that investigation team. So I'll skip the BFU report and whatever. And allow me, Chair, to come to a conclusion. In my conclusion, just said Donia 228, that was an ambulance mission ferrying the remains of late Raf Kasambara from Chireka to Mzuzu, was later requisitioned to transport the late Vice President, Right Honorable Dr. Salos Chirima, on 9th June 2024. That was the message, to fly from Mzuzu to Lilongwe to attend burial of late Raf Kasambara on 10th June 2024, and return to Lilongwe to see off the head of state who was to fly overseas. The aircraft left Kamuzu International Airport with 3 crew, the late Vice President, and 5 other passengers. The ATC lost control with the aircraft until it was discovered that it crashed at Intungwa around Chikangawa Forest the following day with no survivors. The remains were flown by Zambian ambulance helicopter to Lilongwe, submitted for their inquiry's consideration. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honorable members.
Thank you, Major General Ismael, for your presentation, your explanation, your testimony that has been made available to us. I will open the floor to members to ask any questions. Planter Mulabada.
Thank you very much, Chair and Major General Robray Ismael, for quite an elaborate presentation. I have 2 questions, Honorable Chair. Number 1, what information were you provided with the 3-member crew that had returned from Zuzu and landed at Kia to pick up the late Vice President and others? Second question, Honorable Chair, it's become apparent and clear that the MDF and MAF were very aware that the aircrafts, specifically the Donia, did not contain a black box as well as the ELT. It was not functioning. Was the Office of the President and the Office of the Vice President made aware of this condition of the Donia? Thank you.
Major General, you can address that.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable. The first question on the information from crew that flew from Mzuzu to Kia, there was no information apart from indicating that they left Mzuzu Airport at 07:05, because he was reporting of 7 o'clock as he was going now to the aircraft. So we are talking of 7 o'clock, they left around 07:05. And that when they arrived at Kia, they just reported that they arrived safely and that they would refuel with 4 hours to be able to go to Mzuzu, come back to Kia, then Mzuzu again, and fly back to Chireka. That's the information that was given to us, and the number of passengers that was communicated to him for a flight to Mzuzu. About that's the second question, Chair. The black box that has been mentioned is a flight data recorder. This component, much as we call it black box, is not black, it's orange in color. It is always carried at the back of the aircraft. Its function is to record all the flight data, that is engine parameters. For the fixed wing, we are talking of the throttle, the banking, and all that is displayed during the flight. Some of the flight recorders are also connected to a cockpit recording. That it records the parameters of the flight. It also records all communications that are done in the ICSs. ICSs is internal communication system that the pilots use to talk to each other. And nobody else can hear that except the crew. So this component will record that communication on ICS. There's that communication. In some aircrafts, we have where the VIP sits, we have another telephone that the VIP is able to communicate to the crew. I'll give a very good example. One of the head of states used to say, he's just talking to the crew, nobody else listens. And it also has a system where if the head of states wants to come on a radio, he can communicate using that telephone. He can make an address while flying. We have that aircraft, one of the helicopters. And that particular aircraft has a flight recorder. It is there. It is one of the aircrafts that has a flight recorder because it's solely VIP. With the table, the kitchen, and everything is there. So the black box in this particular donia was not part of the minimum equipment list. It was not. It is not there. It is not a requirement for a military operated aircraft to be installed with this black box, so-called black box. Reason why is that these aircrafts are considered as state assets. Under the Geneva Convention, a Chicago Convention, it allows state aircrafts to be equipped with these components as they wish, as those states wish. Otherwise, it is not a mandatory requirement for operation of this particular aircraft, except for ICAO rules, IATA rules, where companies or airlines use aircrafts for passenger or commercial use. This one is a requirement. No airplane can fly without a flight recorder. It is not allowed. There are these rules between that are given by ICAO and IATA. IATA is an organization that looks after passengers. ICAO is the civil aviation rules and regulations. So there are rules, Chicago, ICAO, and IATA. ICAO and IATA emphasizes on the installation of a flight data. Now for military, why we do not consider this as a requirement for us to operate is one, an ELT, as I said, it will only emit a signal at impact. Now, for security reasons, if, for example, we are in the field and we crash, a crash landing, that signal will go out and everybody will be able to pick it up. And we'll say, oh, now the enemy is at this place. And another thing is that that ELT, apart from the automatic position, it has a manual position and off position. On off position, that's where we put it because we did not need it. But on manual, you can take that component, it has an antenna. You pull out that antenna. If you are lost, for example, in case of Chikangawa, for example, if there was that component was working and there was a survivor, one would pick it up and start a meeting. We would do, for example, that's why I went straight to the base and be in the tower. We could pick up that signal and talk to that particular person. So you know our friend is at this place. Alas, this thing was not working. Our helicopters, all the helicopters and all the aircrafts, they are equipped with an ELT. A working ELT would not have any challenges locating where that crash has happened. We had the equipment, yes, but we couldn't do anything. I mean, it's very difficult to understand this. For security reasons, I wouldn't say we have so many aircrafts that are just standing there, but not serviceable. They may be airworthy, yes, but not serviceable. Airworthiness and serviceability are two different things. So, through you, Chair, I believe that I've answered the question from the Honourable.
Honourable Chair, I wanted to know if the offices of the President and the Vice President were made aware that the ELT's battery was down, was not working, to allow them to be able to make informed decisions as to whether to procure the services of the Donya or not.
Thank you, Chair, through you, Honourable. Thank you for that question. As I said that this was in 2006 that this quotation was submitted. Normally, our belief is that the headquarters, our headquarters, is always in contact with the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Finance, Treasury, because they are the ones that give the money. So all these quotations normally, because they also need Forex. So we believe that these are not the only requirements that we submitted for support. Servicing of these aircrafts have been there for years. We've been crying for servicing of these aircrafts. I would request through you, Chair, we have in Parliament a Defense and Security Committee, right? A Committee of Defense and Security. I last saw them when I was a major in the Air Force coming to see the aircrafts. And the other time that we met in the Defense headquarters, I was trying to explain the need to have a helicopter. We were the first ones when there was flooding in Mozambique in 2000. Malawi was on the map. We were the first ones to arrive there with those aircrafts that are grounded for so long, for more than 10 years. We've been everywhere, but now we are seeking assistance from other people. We understand, yes, that we have challenges in Forex or whatever, but I don't know what to say, but it is important to take this as a requirement for the nation. It's a requirement for the nation. I also gave another example. This I was talking when even the SPC was around. I said, imagine that the head of state is sick and we have to take him to hospital. So we go out with our sirens, ambulance and whatever. The head of state? No. This was just to highlight a point, the need to have these aircrafts. Ambulance you cannot do anything without ambulance. But here we are. So the office of the VP, the office, in fact, the VP came, the late VP came to our base. I was base commander at that time. We gave him all the requirements. And what he said was, why don't you sell out all these aircrafts and buy new ones? So, a bright idea, yes. But if you are failing to service your car, can you start budgeting for buying another car, a new one? I mean, that's the situation that we have been in for years. And here we are. We are talking of... So, to make the point clear, the ELT is not a requirement in the minimum equipment list for flying. The black box is not a requirement to make an aircraft airworthy or serviceable, because they don't contribute anything to a flight, except that you want to get information on the conditions of flight during an incident or accident. For the ELT, it is only when you are crashing that you need this equipment. We are not planning to crash. Through you, Chair, I think...
Major General, are you suggesting that the former Vice President knew that the Donia 228 did not have an ELT, did not have the black box, when you've indicated that he came and inspected the base and advised you to dispose some of the platforms we have to buy new ones? Is that an insinuation that he knew?
Thank you, Chair. What I'm trying to say, he did not come to inspect the aircraft, but he came to visit. And in our presentation, as ministers come, he also came. This is what we showed him. Looking at the enormous amount of money that was there, that was his suggestion that I think we need to change these things. You're saying this has been grounded for 10 years, this one 14 years, this one 2 years. Why can't we just buy new equipment? Not necessarily that he came to inspect the serviceability or airworthiness of the aircraft, but it was one of the presentations that was given to him. Knowing whether the ELT is not functional or there is no black box, I mean, we wouldn't tell a passenger about that, because for that aircraft to conduct a mission, that's not a requirement, unless if you think that maybe today we will crash or something happens. But the whole government, I'm sure, is aware, even now, that these aircrafts, that's the status, that's the condition of the aircraft. And we've been crying for years. Thank you, Chair.
There's Sakasena, and then we come this side to Karabi North.
Chair, good afternoon or good evening. I want to engage the retired Major General, just to confirm on your presentation, grade number 2. The order which was given on phone, is it through General, you're saying General Jaff or General Valentino?
Thank you, Honorable. For the ambulance, it was General Jaff. It was General Jaff.
All right. You had indicated that you had a phone call with a pilot in command around 1700 hours on June 2024. You called the pilot in command, late Colonel Owen Sambalopa, who had confirmed they will take off Zuzu Airport at 7 hours on 10th. Do you remember as to what time did you spoke to General Sambalopa on this day? And in that kind of conversation, when he had telling him the orders on the next day, did he indicate of any weather situation in Zuzu prior to 10th June when he was talking to him in the evening of 9th June?
Thank you very much, Honorable. When I talked to him on 9th, when they landed at Mzuzu, he told me that the flight to Mzuzu was not, the weather en route to Mzuzu was not clear. It was cloudy.
And then, thank you. On your page 3 of your presentation, at 7:48, 10 June 2024, aircraft landed at Kia. Keno Sambalopa communicated to me, that's to you, 7:50 hours that they had landed at Kia. Prior to, on the 9th, he tells you that when they're landing in Zuzu, the weather was not clear. When he landed at Kia, did you ask him or him tell you about the weather when he was coming that morning hours from Zuzu to Kia? Did he say anything, or did you ask him, having that you had in mind on the situation of the previous day?
Thank you, Honorable. Through your chair. When he communicated to me after landing at Kia, he indicated that Mzuzu, that morning when they were leaving, it was cloudy, yes, but at least with some octas at certain levels. Octas is the Charlie Bravo, the rain cloud anyway. Now, I am a flight engineer as well. I know Mzuzu. What he said is Mzuzu, as usual, is cloudy. En route to Kia, in between, the clouds are building up. That's what he told me. We have clouds, yes, but knowing very well that I am talking to a very qualified pilot in command, and we have always flown to Mzuzu and back, we knew where to go. In most cases, if you look at the BFU report on the radar, you see that when they were going to Mzuzu, they used the lake. That's normally where we go, because it is always clear along the lake. Now, what happens is when we fly there, we arrive close to Mzuzu, we always focus on Ikwendeni. Is that called Ikwendeni? Then from there you see an opening, and the road is our road mark. We look at the road, and now we know that once I take this road, I will arrive north of Mzuzu Airport. So Mzuzu, in months like this one, it's never clear. It's never clear. There's always cloud at certain levels.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that you have, in your response, you have referred to BFU reports, because that's where I was going. The BFU reports, which you have referred to, it says, it had mentioned that the flight was flying at a certain point, the Donia was flying low, as low as 7,000 miles, is it? Instead of going up to 9,000 above, maybe to have a clear view. So you're saying you are the engineer, you have flown that Donia before. Do you have any idea why the flight was flying that low?
Thank you, Honorable. Through you, Chair. Actually, I'm a flight engineer on the helicopters, not on the Donia. However, from BFU report, I don't know whether we'll be talking on BFU report, but if you look at the BFU report, you will notice that when the crew submitted their flight plan, the flight plan requested to fly throughout at 9,000 feet. Why was 9,000 feet safer? Is because the level of your octaves, your level of your cloud is always below 9. That is one reason. The next reason is that radar, for Kia radar to pick you, to be able to see you where you are, is around that level. Below that, up to 7,000 feet, below that, no radar can pick you. That's why when they arrived in Mzuzu, what happened is they were flying high and low, but always, most of the times, below 7,000 feet, which means no radar could pick them up. That is one. Two, they were in the mountains. That impedes the signal, radio signal, from the tower to you. So there are two issues that contributes to this challenge. One, the level of flight. Unfortunately, there was no first survivor. We have no survivor to ask them, why did you leave? You requested for 9, and you were given 9,000 to fly straight to Mzuzu. Why did you change to 1 to 7,000? And then why did you leave the course, arriving NASA, diverted about 3 nautical miles away from the point NASA? Why was this ABCD? Why these loops and whatever? I don't think, Chair.
Okay, Chair, I have 2 more questions. The last one before I go to the last one.
Sorry. Just on your question.
Yes.
On your question, I want to weigh in on your question. So you are a flight engineer. What do you make of these irregular flight maneuverings that were happening after it had crossed, is it Kasungu, NASA Point? What you, as an engineer, apart from the attitude, yes, we understand, you have explained, but these maneuverings, going in circles, in loops, what do you make of this? What would be your views?
Thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, I may not be able to, because that's where the whole issue is. That's where things started to go wrong. And that's where the investigation has to zero in. That's the whole issue. The diversion, the attitudes, the loops, and all that. If we sit down and try to analyze all that, we will definitely come to kind of an understanding of what may have been happening. This would be hypothesis anyway. But I believe that at the end of all this, we may come to an understanding of what was happening to the crew, to the aircraft, to the weather. That's the issue that we need to be focusing on. And I believe that the committee will have certain arrangements to go into the BFU report. I have the report. I was a member of that investigation. I may have my own understanding, but I don't know whether it will be necessary to discuss that at this point.
Thank you. So I give back the floor to Desakasina to wind up. If anybody has a follow-up questions, let's ask those after Desakasina has exhausted these questions.
Thank you so much, Chair. Page 5 of your presentation, 11 June 2024. You are saying at 300 hours, the Air Force Search and Rescue Team departed Longe for Chikangawa. I want to understand this 300 hours. Is it 3 a.m. of 11? So the search, you went there at 3 a.m. What was happening before that?
They landed at Kia last night around 6. Now, these are people who are flying from from Zomba to arrive at Kia. We had to go pick them up. We had to have our own briefing because in the military, we always work on orders and briefings. You are here in Lilongwe. Yes, they would ask, why are we here? What's our mission? So they came to the base now. We had a briefing looking at what has transpired so far. We are looking at the 20 nautical miles, 37 kilometers north of Mzuzu to understand exactly. Because at one point you would see that people are concentrating in Chikangawa. Why Chikangawa and not 37 kilometers north of Mzuzu? It's because there was communication that one of the towers had picked a signal of a cell phone. Now that's the point when we said, 37 north is not this south, Chikangawa is south. So we had to turn to Chikangawa now and start. That's all that information was supposed to be given to these guys who are coming from Zomba to marry up with the crew, technicians and engineers from Lilongwe, and to drive now to. So we had to find fuel for that. Where would they go? It's called in Chikangawa, Akagona Kuti. So we had to source a place where to go, transport, fuel, and even food, because we knew that would take time. Now, to do all that logistics, it took us some time, and the only time to leave was 3 a.m.
I want to take you, Chair. The last where I'm concentrating my question is Annex 5. You have submitted Annex 5. Are you there?
Zachitika kuti? Zachitika nthawi zanji? Kodi nanga amene wapanga ndani? Musakhale nawo gulu lovutika ndi mphekesera ayi. Tapangani subscribe ku Malawi Daily Headlines lero kuti zochitika mdziko mwanu momwe zisamakuphonyeni.